So I went to see the big person in HR, and I said, I have something to tell you. I can't see much, and I need help, please. Asking for help is really hard because I had never asked for help before. I thought I was a failure. I thought I was weak. I thought people would laugh at me. I thought people wouldn't want to talk to me. And it wasn't like that at all. In fact, they sent me off to see an eye doctor again. And this eye doctor met me in March 2000. And as I walked in his door, he said, "Come in. I'm not going to test your eyes. I know that you're blind. Thing is, you don't know you are." And he asked me, "Why are you ashamed to be who you are? What's wrong? It's just your eyes." And he was right, but I wasn't ready to hear it. And then he asked me, "What did you want to be when you were little, Caroline? Was this your dream? To be this scared of yourself?" And I'm like, "I'm brilliant. I've done loads of things in my life. I'm fabulous." And he goes, "No, you haven't. You may be fabulous, but you're going to make yourself completely blind if you don't stop. And you are completely responsible for this. It's nobody else's choice." He said, "You have one choice. Be who you are." And as I left his office, he called me back and he said, "Casey," which is the name people call me because I'm a real tomboy, "think about doing something different." And I was devastated. I didn't want to leave the successful company with all the money and all the things that everybody else thought was successful. I wanted to be the same. And I remember putting on my shoes and going for a run along our beach. And generally, I don't fall on rocks, but because I was so angry and so upset, I was running along like a mad thing. And a big rock was there, and I fell on the rock. And I was crying, and there was snot and tears and rain. It's always raining in Ireland. And I was feeling very sorry for myself. And I thought if my father could see me now, he would give me a whack and say, "Feel the wind in your face." And he would have. Thank God he didn't see me. And then I remembered the man saying to me, "Do something different. What did you want to be when you were little?" Well, I can't race motorbikes and I can't race cars, but nobody needs license to be Mowgli from the Jungle Book. True? So that was the day that I decided I would leave my job and I would become Mowgli from the Jungle Book. And I would travel across India on the back of an elephant, 1,000 kilometers, and learn how to be Mowgli from the Jungle Book on my own. In January 2001, with a National Geographic camera behind me, which I hated and I kept trying to run away from, I met my only blind date in my life. And my blind date's name was Kanchi. Kanchi is a little, big, fat elephant who was very cross, who doesn't like women, who was 17 years old, and who had to walk for 1,000 kilometers. I had 6 Indian companions. Nobody spoke English. We all sang Christmas carols together, because that's the only thing we knew. And I played with monkeys, rats, snakes, slept on the ground, cleaned an awful lot of elephant shit, and got myself right to a hospital where we paid, because I raised money for 6,000 cataract operations. But that was the beginning of an amazing journey to the work that I do now. And the work that I do now is to get business to see the value of every single person with a disability, to employ them and to serve them as customers. And that job now has had me flying around the world, talking to some of the most extraordinary business leaders, getting them to see that it's not the disability, but it's the ability of every person. It doesn't matter the things that we can't do. It matters the things we can. And after 9 years of doing this, we're starting to bring a project global, We made 1.2 million when I was 35 years old by simply believing we could change the way the world saw ability. I would never have imagined, ever, as I sat back in that rock feeling sorry for myself, that we could do this. But I want to tell you one thing before we finish. Do you remember me telling you I so desperately wanted to drive a car? Well, I did get to drive a car. And this is where I don't ever want you to think this dream that I've asked you to think about is not possible. When I was at the end of my trip in India, there was a big monsoon storm. And we were in a horrible field, okay? The water was up to the knees of the elephant. Our tent was floating away. We were all drowned and wet. And I had to do an interview with BBC Radio to try and see if they could get me a spare battery for the National Geographic camera. And just as we put the satellite phone up, and by the way, can I say this was 9 years ago, so the satellite phone was huge, and you had to stand like this to try and get some form of a reception, and it's bucketing down with rain, and it's gross, it's horrible. And this telephone rings. And I'm like, who's calling me on this phone? Nobody has this number. So I pick up the phone. Hello? And this man's voice comes across the phone. Hello, elephant lady. My name is Miles Hilton Barber. And I'm wondering, are you up for an adventure? And I'm thinking, who is this dude? I'm in the monsoon rain here with an elephant who's got a cold. Who are you? And he goes, I'm about to go around the world in 80 ways with a friend. Come along. I've been to Hong Kong before, in November 2002. Why was I here? Because I did go around the world in 80 ways. With Miles, who went blind when he was 29. He was 50 when the journey began. And another friend, Mike Mackenzie, who used to be 6'4", is now 4'8", because he got basically mashed by a truck and lost both of his legs and is paralyzed from the chest down. So us three people, mad idiots, Irish expression for nutty person, were challenged to go around the world in 3 months using 80 modes of transport. 3 disabled people, can you imagine that? And to raise $1 million in the countries that we went through. So we were given 2 tools. One, a fantastic manager from Rolls-Royce to help us, who, by the way, never told us until we started the journey that he was actually half deaf. And then we were given a cameraman who had a glass eye. So the 5 unusual people start traveling around the world. We come to Malaysia, and everybody knows that Caroline wants desperately to drive a car. So the Malaysian Grand Prix track heard this and thought, we've an idea. Let's get the first blind against blind race going. So they pick me, and they put me in one car, and Miles in another car. I'd like to point out, before Miles went blind, he used to race cars, so that was an unfair advantage. I got a 15-minute driving lesson where I learned the brake and the accelerator. That was it, okay? Mike, the guy with no legs, he decides, I'm going to be your co-pilot. I've nothing else.